Which right angle drill is the best? Like normal here, we'll go ahead and get them on the dyno. Bosch, no surprise, highest performance with the 6 amp hour here. So overall, the Bosch here didn't do so great, but we did see a little bit of a performance boost using this 6 amp hour. Now you can see in comparison, this tool is quite bulky. You do have a battery indicator, single speed, variable speed trigger, LED here on top. But one thing that makes this unique is the different positions we can actually put the head in. Made in Malaysia, tool only MSRP of $89. Snap on with the 2.5. Snap on, of course, we just have that 2.5 here. Power-wise was really near the Bosch, but it does have a good amount more torque considering it has a 2-speed gearbox. So along with the 2 speeds, you have that variable speed trigger, and you do have a clutch here like a normal drill. LED light below the clutch. Made in China with an MSRP of $260, tool only. Makita 12 amp hour with the 4 here. So a little bit higher performance here if you do run the 4 instead of this 2 amp hour. Putting the watts above the snap-on there would torque just below at 54 inch-pounds. Single speed with a variable speed trigger here. LED there near the chuck. Made in China with an MSRP of $120. M12 with the 5. So the M12, yeah, you do get a little bit of boost using the high output batteries, which is to be expected here. You do have a battery indicator, electric clutch, variable speed trigger, and the LED light next to the chuck. Made in China with an MSRP of $100. Craftsman with the 9. It did okay using the 2 amp hour, but when you move on up to that 9 amp hour, you gain about 140 watts, along with a jump in torque. Variable speed trigger like the rest, but you do have a 2-speed gearbox, LED light near the chuck. Made in China with an MSRP of $80. Metabo with the 8. So a little bit of boost if you use the multi-volt batteries, variable speed trigger, single speed, LED light up near that chuck. So this comes with a handle that screws on either side of the head here. Made in China with an MSRP of $120. Makita with the 5. So performance stayed about the same. Yes, you do gain a little bit going over this 2 amp hour. Single speed, variable speed trigger, LED there near the chuck. Like the Metabo, except the handle here on either side of the head. MSRP of $230, but it is made in Japan. Ridgid with the 12. Ridgid here, surprisingly not bad using the standard and the 2 amp hour max, but we do see a boost in performance when we climb up there with batteries. 2-speed gearbox, variable speed trigger, brushless, light up here near the head, made in China with an MSRP here of $130. Kobalt with the 8. Performance stayed pretty steady. Yes, you do get a little bit of a boost going above this 2 amp hour. 2-speed gearbox, variable speed trigger, LED light, brushless, made in China with a tool only MSRP of $120. Ryobi with the 12. Ryobi here got a boost if you use that 3 amp hour and above. 2-speed gearbox, variable speed trigger, LED light near the chuck, brushless, made in China with a tool only MSRP of $120. DeWalt with a new Tablet 8 here. Seems like the sweet spot with this is the 1.7, and it performs decent with anything above that 4 amp hour. 2-speed gearbox, variable speed trigger, LED light, made in Mexico with an MSRP of $160. Bauer with that new 12. Bauer, impressive numbers here for the money. I'd say you definitely want to be running at 3 amp hour and above, but it does all right with this 1.5. 2-speed gearbox, variable speed trigger, LED light, made in China with an MSRP of $40. M18 with that 6 amp hour forge. M18, numbers are pretty much even across the board, but if you want the highest performance, you got to be running that 6 amp hour forge. Single speed with clutch adjustment here at the base, variable speed trigger, LED light, made in China with an MSRP of $150. So max watts with the kit battery, Kobalt here coming out top, followed by Makita and Ridgid, and the snap-on, 12 volt Makita and the Bosch rounding out the bottom. So max watts with a 1.5 to 3 amp hour battery. So the Kobalt Makita Ridgid on top. And then again on the bottom here we have the snap-on Makita and Bosch. Now when using 4 to 12 amp hour, Kobalt is still on top. Torque using the kit battery. So we have Ridgid, Ryobi, Kobalt. When using a 1.5 to 3 amp hour, DeWalt comes out on top here, followed by Ridgid and Ryobi. At the bottom again, we have M12, Metabo HPT, and Bosch. Now using a 4 to 12 amp hour, Ridgid is on top, followed by Ryobi and DeWalt. And again, rounding out that bottom, Metabo, M12, and Bosch. So of course, another key thing we have to take a look at with these is the height here, and also the width. So the length was measured here with a caliper, along with the partial length. So some of the tools have a indentation. So the length was also measured from the center of the chuck to this indentation, along with the width and the weight of the tool without the battery. So I'm going to put the Makita here at last. It's kind of bulky, it's brushed. We don't have dual speed, so we have low torque and high speed. Feels like it was designed in the 90s, but a couple things I do like is the handle and it being made in Japan. And another thing to note, you can get it with a steel chuck, which does drop that overall height down a little bit. Following that with snap-on, of course the performance wasn't that great, and the price tag of tool only of $260 being made in China. Now, I will say it's nice to see it is dual speed, has a mechanical clutch here, and it does have a rubber boot here above the chuck. Metabo HPT, pretty much the same thing as Makita. The only difference here is the price is a lot cheaper because it's made in China, and it does have a battery indicator here at the bottom. Bosch, single speed, but it is kind of unique with the different positions you could put the chuck here. The M18, decent power, but low torque because it is single speed. It does have that electric clutch adjustment on the back, but really, being brushed, this thing needs an update, needs 2 speeds. M12, pretty much the same story, just a little cheaper and a lot more compact. Makita 12 volt, yes, the performance is on the low end, but I think this does bring the form factor. Sadly, it is only single speed. DeWalt, good performance, but it is noisy, it is brushed, and it does weigh quite a bit. I think this needs a refresh, just like the M18 and the M12. Craftsman looks to be a newer version of the DeWalt. Now I'm going to put the Ryobi here in 4th place, being that it is 2-speed, brushless, good performance there, coming in at a decent price. Followed right by the Kobalt, so the 2-speed, brushless. Now it does have 3 torque modes and then drill mode. I really didn't see a big difference between 1, 2, and 3, but yeah, there is a difference between using those and drill mode. Second place, gonna go to the Ridgid here. Highest performance, and it is quite compact compared to the other 18, 20 volts. Definitely when you look at the Kobalt here, Ryobi, Craftsman, and even the M18. But of course, pretty much the same thing as Ryobi, brushless, 2-speed, and is mid-range there with the price. But even though the Bauer is quite bigger than the Ridgid, and the Bauer is brushed, in this case, I'm going to put Bauer first, just because of the performance versus the price tag. Because with the rest being around just over $100, here we have this drill for roughly $40. So I don't think you can go wrong spending $40 on this. So my 1, 2, 3, going to be the Bauer, Ridgid, Kobalt. Maybe we go ahead and test these larger right angles at some point. So let us know in the comments below if you have any of these drills and how they've performed for you. The links will be below like normal. Along with at the end here, some thermal testing, DB, the specs, and how they're ranked. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. So I captured the DB and the sound of each here. Snap-on is the quietest, with the loudest being the Metabo HPT, followed by the DeWalt and the Kobalt. So I'm going to load each one here down to roughly 150 watts for 2 minutes, and then we'll take a thermal image.